Ian. Hello, it's Donna Balzer. I'm back for Facebook Live. Thank you for joining me again today. I am the author of the 3-Year Gardener's Gratitude Journal. Sorry, I had to check the cover. It's been a busy day. And I'm here today again on Facebook Live to answer your gardening questions. So if you're just joining me and you would like to ask a gardening question, because I know there's been snow on the prairies and there's been all kinds of bad weather. So get those questions in by going to the bottom right-hand corner of your page. That's how you do it on Facebook. And then the whole program will be rerun later and you can go in and love it and share it and tell your friends you were live on Donna Balzer's Facebook Live. So today I have a special guest. That special guest is Carol Michel, and Carol has a book out that won a prize. Potted and Pruned won the gold medal prize. And we're going to talk to her about that. But first, I'm going to tell you a bit more about Carol. You're going to start thinking about what questions you might have. You're going to ask me those questions. And Carol is also a horticulturist. I just found out she has a degree in horticulture as well from Purdue University. Those of us from Canada are really impressed when we hear about that. And Carol has not only got the prize-winning book, but we are going to give a copy of that book away in my next newsletter. So if you're not already following me on the newsletter, it's at donnabalzer.com. Just go in and say, yeah, I'd like to sign up for your newsletters. They're about once a month, and you could win this book that we're going to talk more about today. So about Carol, she has this degree in horticulture. She's an avid collector of old garden books. I find that really interesting. And she has possibly the largest collection of garden hose. I don't mean hose, H-O-S-E. I mean hose, H-O-E-S. So those are garden hose. So welcome, Carol. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Donna.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you about your book because I found out it was the best winner. Did you know that this book won the gold medal at the Garden Writers before you got to the conference?
I did not. I knew it won a silver, and then all the silver books were put in the pot, I guess, and then rejudged. And so I found out at the banquet that I had won the gold medal for best overall book. So it was very exciting.
So exciting. I was going to say lucky, but it's not lucky. You wrote this book, you've worked on it. So actually it's hard work, but it's so exciting for you. So I really want to congratulate you on that. That is tremendous.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But, before we get into too much about the book, because we're going to talk a lot about the book, I want to find out about this giant hose collection that you've got. Hose as in H-O-E-S. What is this giant collection?
Well, it started, I don't know, probably 20 years ago. And I guess I was looking for the perfect weeding tool. And the next thing you know, I've got enough hose in my garage to call it a collection. And then once you tell people, hey, I collect garden hose, they send them, they bring them. I've had manufacturers that sent them to me because I posted them all online as my hoe collection. And so it's been a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to talk to them, to gardening groups about my hoe collection. It's something different.
That's hilarious. What is your favorite hoe?
My favorite hoe.
I get a straight face when I say that. Just sounds funny. What is your favorite hoe?
Well, I will tell you that when I worked in a corporate job, HR got really nervous when I talked about my hoe collection, and I thought, what do they have against gardening tools? I don't know.
It's just the way the word sounds. It doesn't sound quite right when you talk about it like this.
It doesn't.
We should be holding some up. Have you got a favorite?
My favorite is, and I should have brought it to hold up, is the Japanese hand digging hoe. Oh. And it's got a triangular shaped head, but the flat side's the working side, and it's got just a little bit of a tilt, and you can use it. If you can still get on your knees to garden, this is a great tool to work up the soil, and it's got a nice sharp blade on it.
Okay, well, that's cool. Well, we've already got a couple of people watching, so hi to Neil and hi to Mike. And maybe I know Mike's from Medicine Hat and Neil is from Vancouver, so good to see you guys. So have you got other hoes? This is a short-handled hoe. Do you ever use a long-handled hoe?
I do on occasion. I have some stirrup hoes that are really nice because they don't tend to move the soil. You just kind of go back and forth, and they kind of cut the soil and cut the weeds off. I got a lot of old hoes that antique ones that have they're too fragile of the handle to go out into the garden anymore. Afraid I'd break them off.
Do you display them then? Do you have a special hoe display?
No, they're hanging like 5 on a hook in the garage, and then there's a barrel in the corner for the old hose, and a bunch of digging forks got stuffed in there. I have
pretty informal then.
Yes, and I have a couple hose here in the house, one on the fireplace mantle that my cousin dug out of her parents' shed when they were moving away, and she thinks it belonged to my great-grandfather, so we pretend that it does, and I put it on the mantle or on the hearth.
That's so great. So tell me now, in your words, because you've been gardening a long time, why is gardening so important to the world? What is so great about gardening?
Well, you know, I got these old books, and there are books from the early 1900s where they advocated that people would be healthier physically and mentally if they would just go out and get in the garden. And it didn't matter whether they had one plant in a tin can, because it was the 1900s, or a whole big garden, but just it's good for you physically, and I think mentally and emotionally. And I think that people who do take a chance and go out and just start digging and planting will tell you their lives are a lot better with a garden than without a garden.
Wow. Well, hands up to gardening. Thanks. I think that's fantastic. Is there some kind of special learning point that you think gardeners will take away from today? Is there something that you would like everyone to know?
That gardening is fun.
Not just talking about it, but physically gardening?
Physically gardening is fun, and my book is it's sort of the intersection of humor and horticulture. So we gardeners, when people look across the street that don't garden and they wonder what's going on over here, it's like, nothing's going on, don't worry about it. But they probably look and say, what is she doing on her hands and knees now?
Well, let's talk about that book, and I'll show it again. The book is called Potted and Pruned, and this is Carol's new book that just won the Garden Writers Gold Award. So that's really great, Carol. I just wanted to show that one more time. So tell me, what is it all about? What is your book about?
It's 36 humorous and lighthearted essays on gardening, and it covers, you know, there's an intro that kind of introduces me. I have stuff in there about what it means when a gardener says that for example, that a garden center isn't very far. It means the non-gardener that's going along should go to the bathroom before they get in the car, maybe pack an overnight bag, because not very far to a gardener that wants to go to a special garden center might be an overnight trip. It's not just around the corner. And so there's things that are quirky about gardeners, and that's the kind of stuff that I included in the book.
Now, Carol, we'll get back to that. You're a long ways further south than me, but we've just had a question from Medicine Hat from Mike Maxwell, and he's asking, and I think I posted that. Oh, I have to hide your name in order to show his. Are you seeing Mike Maxwell's question? He wonders, would it be a good idea to plant rye for a season to control weeds? Now, we don't know what kind of weeds Mike has, but Mike, honestly, weeds are, fall rye is usually planted in the fall to improve the soil. I don't think it would control weeds because once it goes to bloom, it'll produce seeds, and that's like a whole new crop of weeds. But you tell us, Carol, what would you do to control weeds? I know you've got lots of methods mentioned in your book.
Well, controlling weeds is just why some of us exist as gardeners, it seems, because it's a constant battle. And in another old book, the advice comes from the 1700s, and the best way to control weeds is pull them early and just keep pulling them. Don't let them go to seed. Like you said, winter rye, if you let it go to seed, you'll have winter rye, and it becomes your next weed. But keep pulling it. I don't use any chemicals in my lawn or my back lawn or my garden to control weeds. So I just pull. And then if it's really, really bad, you can try to smother them. And that sometimes helps.
Yeah, I've done that myself. Have you done that with cardboard? Is that how you smother the weeds?
Some people use cardboard. They do layering, and they'll put down maybe, first of all, I cut whatever was growing down to stubbins. and then I would add a layer of cardboard and then a good layer of mulch. And if it was a really rough area, you might add a second layer of cardboard. Some people use thick newspapers, but the scientists out there are a little bit leery about using cardboard. I've used it, and it's controlled weeds.
You know, I've done that too. So Mike, back to you, because you asked the questions about fall rye. Fall rye will improve your soil. It won't necessarily control your weeds. Carol and I are now talking about putting down cardboard, and Carol's right. Some scientists are saying it won't actually help. What is it that they don't like about cardboard? Do you know, Carol?
You know, I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up, but part of it could be that what's in the cardboard. If you get a bunch of boxes, and in today's society that we're overrun with boxes because we just click and it gets delivered to our door in a box. You want to take out the tape, you want to take out the staples, and make sure you have clean cardboard that doesn't seem like it has some sort of special coating. So you want to be careful and not just throw any piece of cardboard out there.
Okay. And I just saw a recipe recently that called for all kinds of ingredients like soap and vinegar. And I just said, you know, no, these people, I said, just use the vinegar. If you've got something that you have to get rid of right now, maybe a weed between a crack or something. But look, we've also heard from Elizabeth Parsons. She's congratulating you on your book. So that's really nice.
Elizabeth.
Well, let's get back to your book. How does it work? How does Potting and Pruned work for people? When they pick it up, what are they going to learn in Potted and Pruned?
Well, I hope when they pick it up, they're going to laugh, and then they'll find some funny stories to read. And then in the funny stories, people tell me, you do pick up a little bit of gardening advice. But this is definitely not a how-to book. My aunt likes it because she says she can read a few essays at night before she goes to bed. And I'm like, oh, great. My book puts her to sleep.
Well, that's your aunt. I'm assuming an older aunt. So
yeah.
She goes.
But I think people read it and they laugh and they see this. People say, you nailed it. You nailed us gardeners. And, you know, I had an essay in there about retiring my old gardening T-shirt. And, you know, we all have that special T-shirt. It's like the garden grows better if we got our special T-shirt on and we garden better. And I said, you know, it had some holes up on the shoulder and I kept thinking they were bugs. And, you know, and there were some holes where you shouldn't really have holes on your T-shirt. So I had to retire it and give it a fitting ceremony, but I can't bear to get rid of it. So it kind of sits there as a reminder. And then I, you know, break in a new T-shirt.
Aw. And so you've written about the T-shirt. Now, Liz has a specific question. She wasn't just saying hi and congratulations. She wants to know, when is it a good time to start fall fertilizing? And as I was saying earlier, some people have actually found out that they've got snow this week, so they are not fall fertilizing at all. Is there ever a case in Indiana where you would fall fertilize?
People do put fall fertilizer on their lawns to kind of sit there, and then in the spring it gives it a good start. I don't recommend fertilizing like trees and shrubs in the fall, because what you don't want to do is have the tree or shrub kick out some new growth. And that's also why we don't do a lot of pruning of live wood in the fall, because you want the tree to start quieting down, you know, sending the energy down to the roots and getting ready to go dormant. You don't want a big flush of new growth, because our frost here is typically October 10th or later.
Okay.
So
now on the prairies, there's already been some snow. And so even the lawns, I actually would discourage fertilizer for all the same reasons. We don't want to push any growth. And sometimes the trees actually come right out under the lawn. And so if you're just fertilizing your lawn, you inadvertently fertilize your trees. You might trigger an extra flush of growth, even if you're in a warmer climate. Like right now, I'm on the West Coast today. When I'm here, I don't want to trigger any late flushes of growth. I want the trees to realize by the day length that the days are getting shorter, it's going to be fall soon, and even if the weather continues warm, we are going into winter. So I don't actually want to push growth. So I would say, Liz, I'm not a big fall fertilizer person, and it sounds like, Carol, you aren't either, but I would say that some people do put down compost in the fall. It's a time that they want to turn their compost, they want to get it emptied out, and that's not a bad idea. Do you do composting in the fall as well, Carol?
I do, and I've heard here you really want to wait until the ground is frozen.
Okay.
Until you've had a good hard freeze, because one of the values of the compost is it sort of modulates the soil temperature, so you don't have a lot of freezing and thawing. and you don't end up with that heaving, which can throw shallow rooted plants, right out of the ground.
Okay, I want to show. I had a question from Sean Marie. She said, not a question, more like a statement. Sean Marie, which we also call Sean, says, frame that T-shirt. She loved that story, so she wants you to frame the
Frame the T-shirt with a copy of the book.
and then post it on Facebook, and we could all go in and like it. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great.
When my editor read that section of the book when she was editing it, she sent an email and she says, I am dying to see this T-shirt.
So tell me then, one more question about the book, because that's an interesting thing to me. Because you are the gold winner from the Garden Writers, I want to know, who is it for? Who did you write this book for?
Well, in some sense, my parents are deceased, so it sounds strange, but a lot of the stuff that I wrote in the book, I had originally put on a blog back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
So, and I wanted to bring that material out of the digital world and put it on paper, because I had read once that the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., where, they keep the United States archives, basically. Mm-hmm. And they don't like to keep digital media because you have to have the computer, the tape drive, the disc reader, whatever it's on, you have to have that forever. And that's an impossible task. Yeah. But if they have a book, a piece of paper, they can keep that forever. So I decided I wanted to unlock all that digital content and put it in a book. And my mom had read my blog before she died, and she really enjoyed it, obviously, because she was my mom. So I think I kind of wrote it for my mom and my dad, both, because I gardened with my dad, and he died 30 years ago. But in a sense, I wrote it for them.
So your mom and dad aren't here now, but who is it designed for now? Who would pick up this book? Who would say, wow, hey, I haven't seen this before, and this is really, who would be interested? Who is it for? Who did you write? Who is your audience? Who did you write it for?
Any gardener.
Any gardener.
Whether they are a new gardener or whether they have gardened their entire lives, I think they will find something fun in the book. They will see themselves, or they will see what they are about to become as they get further into gardening, and they'll laugh. And that's
okay. So anyone who needs a laugh, maybe a gardener who's had a hard day and they need a laugh, they just need to sit down and take a break, because the stories are short, and that's what I liked about them. If you haven't seen Potted and Pruned, it's Carol Michel's new book, and the award-winning gold book, and it is full of these little short stories that you really, I think you said, some of your people told you they were reading it on the toilet, and you were quite insulted. Is that true?
No comment.
No.
If you got to have a book in the bathroom, I don't mind. Just take it. If you buy my book, I don't care what you do with it.
So it's short stories. In other words, it's not Gone with the Wind or something that's going to be.
No, not at all.
Short stories. People that have just a few minutes that want to sit down and read something kind of cute, interesting, fun, something to get a little laugh out of, mostly directed towards gardeners.
Yes.
I think that's really great.
And one of the other great compliments, forget the bathroom compliment, I think it was a compliment. I had two different people who said, I never laugh out loud. And when I read your book, I laughed out loud.
Aw, that's so sweet.
That was a real nice compliment.
So, of course, Mike is asking the question now that a lot of people are thinking. They weren't sure about asking it, but Mike went ahead and he said, where can we get your book, Carol? Where is it available?
The easiest place is on Amazon.
Okay.
It's in very few retail outlets, but if you have an independent bookseller and you go in and ask for the title, they should be able to buy it from their distributor pretty readily. But it's also on Amazon, and it's also on barnesandnoble.com. Okay,
so it should be available and off your webpage as well?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll talk about that more later. So thanks for that question, Michael, because that gets people excited when they can see that. So Sean has another statement, I guess. Sounds like you are an excellent read for the winter. Dare I say that word? Sean is one of the people that has been I was going to say whining, but we're gardeners. We're not whiners.
Right.
Be commenting about some of the recent snow. She is in Red Deer, Alberta, and that's an area that's gotten some snow. I've actually posted some things on my Facebook from some of the farmers in her region that are also saying, look, it's not the end of gardening. It's snowing, but it's not the end of gardening. We still have root crops, and we actually depend on the cool weather. So here's the sunny side. We depend on the cool weather to get the root crops to turn sweet. So if you've got carrots or parsnips or turnips, this is what they need. Actually, they need cool weather to turn sweet. It may also kill the top growth on your potatoes. Now, we don't want the snow to stay. We want it to melt and go away and the weather to get warm and pleasant, because what we want is nice warm weather to go out and harvest some of these crops. But right now, that cool weather is exactly what we need to get the roots sweet and to get the potato tops died back, so that we can get out and do some fall digging. Are you a vegetable gardener yourself, Carol, or is that something you referred to in your book?
Oh, yes. I'm a big vegetable grower. I have a vegetable garden. I call it the Vegetable Garden Cathedral.
Cathedral? Oh, and what's your favorite crop?
It's got to be tomatoes, but peas are a close second because, you know, when I was little, I always remember going out in the spring and my dad would let me sow the peas, and we always did it on St. Patrick's Day down here in I'm zone 6A, 5B. So St. Patrick's Day is a sweet spot for us to put the peas in the ground.
Really? That seems really early, eh?
No, you must be like close to the Arctic Circle.
We are the northern gardeners. I
Yes.
would say, I mean, peas, what people don't realize about, there's two types of peas. There's warm season peas and cool season peas. And the cool season peas here in Canada can be planted before last danger of frost. And a lot of people think you have to wait till May 24th, long weekend. But actually, with cool season peas, you plant them earlier. And people don't realize that. So it's good to have them reminded that in certain areas they're being planted as early as St. Patrick's Day. Well, look at this. I just want to tell you that, Mike Maxwell had a comment. I'm getting a great crop of baked beans. These are soldier beans, black, and Jacob cattle beans. Have you grown beans, Carol? I've never grown beans.
I have not grown beans for baked beans. I've grown green beans primarily. Just the bush beans, the ones that, you know, you pick and eat in the summer when they're green.
Yeah, me too.
It's ready to go pick out there before it gets too much colder. Although it's been in the 80s for several weeks, so it's not.
Yeah, stop your whining. No, just kidding.
It's been in the 80s. It's kind of hot.
You do need a bit of break there. We're going to hope you get some of that northern, some of that Arctic front.
We are. When our cold air comes from Canada.
That's what we always say. Hey, look at this. We've also heard from Andrea Whiteley. Andrea is online. She's in Australia. So
I know Andrea. Hi, Andrea.
Have you traveled to Australia, Carol?
No, but she's come to the GWA, the Garden Writers conferences.
And what I know when I've been to Australia, it seems very confusing, but they are a day behind or a day ahead. Now I'm going to get that wrong. Day ahead. -4 hours for me. So in other words, it's not midnight. You know, when you try to call Europe, it's always so late. But actually in Australia right now, she's probably having her lunch or something. It's probably midday.
She's having breakfast tomorrow, maybe.
So thanks for joining us, Andrea. I really appreciate that. Carol's just here. Carol Michel is telling us about her book, Potted and Pruned. So if anyone has any more questions about that, please feel free to write them in. Or if you have any general gardening questions, both Carol and I are horticulturists. We both have our university training in this, so we love it and we do it, but we also would love to share your information. So Mike Maxwell has told us that he is, harvesting beans. What are you harvesting right now? If you're in your garden today, what are you harvesting? I see.
Well, I would be picking some of the last of the tomatoes, and I've had a second crop of green beans, and I've been picking some of those. I have more peppers than I could ever hope to do anything with, so I got to clean out those peppers. And I haven't done a lot of root crops, so I don't have carrots or turnips or beets, sadly. I had every intention of planting a second crop of those and having some for this fall, but...
Okay. I wonder what people are harvesting. I wonder what Andrea is doing. I noticed she just replied that it's 6:24 in the morning. So that's
I thought she's exactly 12 hours ahead of me.
Is she? So that's a Herculean effort to join us here today. But I wonder if Andrea is even growing anything, because isn't it winter in Australia right now? I think we're in
Heading into spring for her.
well, maybe she's seeding peas. Who knows? Mike Maxwell said last year, there's Andrea. She says we are just about to start planting tomatoes. Isn't this crazy? This
That's
Facebook
crazy.
is such a small world for us. She said, we're just about to start planting tomatoes. My Cercis lavender twist is just in flower. So these are spring plants.
Yes.
And I can't remember what part of Australia Andrea's in, if she's high elevation or down by the water, but
She's in Perth, Australia.
she's on
It's a Mediterranean type climate. And she can comment if I got that wrong.
Okay. So you're planting tomatoes already. I think that's really interesting. Now, we also heard from Mike again. Thanks, Mike. You're just really chiming in today. Mike Maxwell said last year, and he's back to the peas because we just zoomed over that. He planted his peas in April, but this year it was minus 20. Really. Minus 20. Carol, do you even get that cold? Do you even get down to minus 20?
Well, that's minus 20
Celsius.
I'd have to do a little conversion off to the side to find out what that is in Fahrenheit.
You just know it's cold. It's way below zero. It's really cold.
We get below freezing, and we'll get down, and I'm going to go Fahrenheit. We'll get down into the teens or the single digits.
Okay.
Fahrenheit. So I don't know how that equates.
Well, 0 degrees Celsius is freezing. So when both of them are at minus 40, they're both the same. But anyways, we don't care. We're not going to get that cold anymore. Mike was just telling us that it was so cold this spring he couldn't plant his peas as early as he usually does.
So with peas, what people need to understand is air temperature doesn't matter as much as soil temperature. And here, if soil temperature is 40 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer, that's warm enough for peas to germinate. And then they'll tolerate the frost.
Really? So it's just above zero, and then it's warm enough for them to, if it's just above zero, really, basically is what we're saying, Celsius, just above 0 Celsius, it's warm enough for peas to grow. That's really interesting. That's a good way to look at it.
Soil temperature, 40 degrees Fahrenheit soil temperature.
Okay.
Like 1 inch below. And I actually have a soil thermometer. You can go and take the soil temperature, which is another thing. If somebody looks over the fence, it's like, what is she doing out there with that thermometer?
Have you written a crazy story about the lady with the thermometer?
Not yet.
Well, that's cute. We've also heard from Katie Elsie Peters, who said, my mother has instructed me not to let her flowers die. Now, I don't know where Katie lives, but you better tell your mom if it snows there, you can't help it. You're going to have to.
Katie is house sitting in Indianapolis, which is where I'm at.
Okay.
So we are in no danger of having snow anytime soon.
She's probably watering then, is she? Is that still watering?
Watering. She should be watering the flowers, and she probably is. We're getting ready to pull out things that look tired, like the petunias that look tired, and replace those with mums and fall asters, and put out our pumpkins and our gourds. And
okay, well, that sounds like fun. Do you do some fall planting there? Do you actually put a fall crop in, like, for instance, spinach or something like that?
I have in the past. I haven't yet. The best thing I've got is a pot of lettuce that I sowed a couple of weeks ago, and it's coming up nicely. And I think if I protect that pot of lettuce, I'm going to try to keep it so even when it gets really cold, I'm going to cover it, because it's about a 24-inch pot. It's up on the patio, so I think I can keep that lettuce growing for quite a while, and that's going to be my fall crop.
Stretch the season. How long could you stretch the season there, do you think?
For these,
get right into the late fall?
I think that this lettuce I can stretch into November. And then, when it starts to get consistently below freezing at night, I won't be able to stretch it anymore.
I can't believe it, but I'm just looking at the clock and it's already 3:30, and we usually only go till 3:30. So let me wrap it up. If people love the show, they love meeting Carol and hearing about her, then please share it, because then people will be able to also watch it online and see Carol's excellent book. Keep asking questions, because Carol and I can still both see those questions on Facebook, and we can keep answering them for the next few minutes. I'm Donna Balzer, and I am the author of the 3-year Gardener's Gratitude Journal. I don't know if you can see that. And that's a place where you can write down, as you can see, I'm writing and writing and writing, all the many things that are happening. And I just ordered, Carol, you probably won't even need to know this, but I just ordered an orange tree for next spring. I'm going to be totally optimistic and plant an orange tree. So I just put that in my journal today. And I wonder what people are putting in their journals. I'm heading off to New York City this weekend. I heard it's going to be hot. I'm very excited. I'm going to be looking at some rooftop gardens. So if you have suggestions for me, make sure to include those right here on Facebook. And meanwhile, keep enjoying your garden and reading about it. I'm going to give Carol the last word, and I'm going to ask her once again, where can people get this fantastic book? This is Potted and Pruned. Where can people get that, Carol?
They can get it on Amazon, they can get it on barnesandnoble.com, or they can go and ask their independent bookseller to order a copy for them. And they can go to my website, and I have it as well, and I can sell them a signed copy.
Why don't you, like my website, my Facebook site at least, not my website, like my Facebook, or somehow make a comment there yourself at the end of this, and then people can click on that. Anyone that's following me can follow you. Thanks so much for today, Carol. I really appreciate it.
I had a great time, Donna. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.